The New York Jets selected one of the most interesting players in the 2025 NFL Draft as they selected wide receiver Arian Smith from Georgia. Some thought he was one of the most overrated receivers in the country, and some think he's a true hidden gem that could blow up in the NFL if given the right resources. In today's video, we're going to continue my Rookie Spotlight series as we're going to take a look at the rise of Arian Smith, go through his interesting high school career, his time at Georgia, and his fit with the Jets. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's get started and talk about the insane rise of Arian Smith. So in order to understand how we got to this point, we first need to go back in time. More specifically to the town of Mulberry, Florida, which has about 4,000 people. The small town stigma would not stop Arian Smith from becoming one of the top 2 sport athletes in the entire nation. Growing up, he was a pretty crazy athlete and was always the best in his class. He said, quote, "I always knew I was the fastest in the school and in the neighborhood. I really took it seriously in the 8th grade, and my middle school coach was like, wow, you're posting high school times already." Originally, Arian Smith was more of a sprinter, as he won the state title in the long jump as a freshman, and made a name for himself at the national level. As a prep football player though, he was considered a raw talent with elite physical skills, and he lacked technical polish. He even played a little bit of wildcat quarterback, and it was hard to get a good read on him. He was a decent wide receiver while he was at camp, and everybody loved his speed and explosiveness, but many were skeptical of his ability to actually be a true wide receiver. He was eventually bumped from a 3-star to a 4-star, and became one of the top players in the state of Florida. At 6'1" in 3 years at Mulberry, he showed he was more than just a track star. He played both offense and defense, and he was actually the small school's defensive player of the year, but then he would transfer. Ahead of his senior season, he would move to the prestigious Lakeland High School and would focus on just being a wide receiver. He was much more than just a fast runner, as teams from all across the country were offering him a scholarship, and his coach said, quote, "He can be big time because he's got decent height and he's got the speed. All he's got to do is get polished up on routes and understanding the offense. Basically, that's just going to come with time. The athletic ability is there, and once you take a kid like that and work with him, and once he gets it all figured out, he can be as good as he wants to be." Eventually, Arian Smith had about 35 college offers and narrowed his list to Auburn, Tennessee, Bama, Georgia, Florida State, LSU, and Oklahoma. As a senior, he touched the ball 27 times on offense, turning that into 684 all-purpose yards with 8 total touchdowns. He was also a dangerous kick returner, taking 2 of those back to the house. He was an elite athlete who put all his eggs into the basket of football, and now he'd have to make a choice. Originally, he thought he wanted to go to Florida or Florida State, and also Clemson had gotten a commit and backed off of him, and the same thing happened with Oklahoma. 4 of those schools basically were eventually eliminated, and he shut them out. He said, quote, "If you're going to cut me off, cut me off. Don't try to come back in." If his process was a relay race, then Georgia never dropped the baton here. He publicly announced his commitment to Georgia on December 18th, but earlier in the week, he had told other sources about his decision, and it came after watching the SEC championship game. He saw what Georgia both did and did not do. He saw that Georgia did not have enough playmakers against LSU, and he knew that Georgia liked to run the ball, but he knew that eventually they were going to expand on offense, and that's one of the things the coaching staff told him. He said, quote, "After the SEC championship, receivers were dropping things. I was like, dang, they really need receivers, and in that perfect moment of time, I was committed to them." He would then call Kirby Smart the next morning and deliver him the good news over the phone. Their game against LSU in the SEC championship was their least competitive defeat in the Kirby Smart era, and the Bulldogs obviously needed more weapons. He did say that the player-to-coach relationship was the biggest factor, as he said, quote, "Coach Smart really showed me loyalty and how much he wanted me." When asked if he'd rather be a first-round pick or be a gold medalist for America as a sprinter, he said he'd rather be an NFL first-rounder. He would post a 100-meter time at 10.31 seconds, and that was the fastest player Georgia had ever signed, even more so than McCole Hardman Jr. Eventually, he joined a Georgia class that included Marcus Rosemay-Jacksaint, Jermaine Burton, and Justin Robinson. According to 24/7 Sports, Arian Smith was a 4-star recruit, the number 7 wide receiver, and the 42nd best player in the class of 2020. So, how would he end up doing in Athens? Well, let's take a look. When Arian arrived at Georgia, they were obviously one of the best programs in college football, but the wide receiver spot could use some work. They hadn't had an 1,000-yard receiver in quite some time, and Arian Smith was hoping to be the guy for them. He's a guy who could be used very creatively in their offense, led by Todd Monken, and he said, quote, "I look at myself then when I first got to Georgia, and I look at myself now, and I'm much more resilient and nothing's going to stop me. Honestly, I'd probably say I was selfish at the beginning. The first couple years of Arian's career at Georgia were very rocky, as in 2020 he would only appear in 3 games, catching 1 pass for a 31-yard touchdown against South Carolina, and then having a -9-yard loss against Mizzou. He caught 1 pass for 55 yards in the Peach Bowl against Cincinnati, and in total had 2 catches for 86 yards. 2021 was not much better, as while he had 2 touchdowns in 3 games, he only played in 3 games. In total, he had 3 catches for 102 yards, and through his first 2 seasons, he did not do much. As we head into year 3, things once again really didn't change all that much. He caught 1 pass against Mizzou, 1 pass against Tennessee, and 1 pass against LSU in the SEC Championship game before finally having his breakout moment. Against number 4 Ohio State in the college football playoff, Arian Smith would end up having 3 catches for 129 yards and a touchdown. This was extremely important as they only won by 1 point and would advance to kill TCU in the national title game, and he had 1 catch for 3 yards. Through his first 3 seasons, he had a lot of adversity. He had 2 separate wrist injuries, a broken leg, a meniscus injury, turf toe, a significant high ankle sprain, and various soft tissue injuries. That limited him to just 28 total snaps throughout his first 2 college football seasons, and year 3 wasn't much better. Many said the Arian Smith story had been told many times, as a high school track star arrived in Athens hoping to finally see the field, but instead would spend a ton of time injured, and fans were always wanting more. As I said, he did have that breakthrough performance, and in 2023, he'd play a little bit more, but honestly not that much. He had 2 catches against Ball State, a touchdown against UAB, 2 catches against Georgia Tech, helped them beat Alabama in the Orange Bowl, and then had a catch and a touchdown against Florida State. He finished with 8 catches for 153 yards and 2 touchdowns, and going into 2024, Arian Smith was on his last chance, and he finally delivered. He was able to stay healthy, and he showcased that in week 1, as against number 14 Clemson, he caught 5 passes for 56 yards. He followed it up with 4 catches for 73 yards and a touchdown against Tennessee Tech, and then 6 catches for 132 yards and a touchdown against number 4 Alabama. Arian Smith had now become the go-to guy, alongside Dom Lovett and Dylan Bell, and he would continue. Against Mississippi State, he caught 5 passes for 134 yards and a touchdown, and then had 6 catches in their road victory against number 1 Texas. To finish the year, he had 3 catches apiece against Ole Miss, Tennessee, and UMass, and then he helped them beat Georgia Tech in 8 overtimes. For the final 2 games of Arian's college career, he'd have 5 catches for 41 yards in their SEC title win over number 2 Texas, and then a 67-yard catch against number 7 Notre Dame, which they ultimately lost in the college football playoff. Over his 5 years with the Georgia Bulldogs, he won 2 national championships and caught a total of 68 passes for 1,356 yards and 10 touchdowns, and that came in 47 career games. Pretty much all of that was in 2024, but he was somewhat controversial. Midway through the SEC championship game, Arian Smith had a pass drop right off of his chest, and Kirk Herbstreit said on national television, and Herbstreit on national TV said, quote, "He's not a natural ball catcher." At that time, he had led the nation with 10 drops according to Pro Football Focus, and many Georgia fans did wonder at times why he kept trotting out onto the field and why they kept throwing him the ball. Well, I guess the coaching staff believed in him, and when he did touch the ball, he was just such a good playmaker. The pre-draft evaluations of Smith talked about how he had world-class speed, but way too many drops. His 4.36 yard 40 is something that could not be taught, and whatever team decided to draft him would be able to work with that. He had great natural athleticism, and then when asked about the drop, Smith said, quote, "It's probably focus. It's not necessarily technique because there's no special technique for catching a ball. I feel like it's focus and me worrying about other things other than catching the ball." Still though, his world-class speed and his decent production this year would lead him to being drafted in the 4th round with pick number 110 by the New York Jets. Some thought this was somewhat controversial, but he was excited to be there. Smith said, quote, "They asked me if I'm ready to be a Jet, and I told them, yeah, I'm ready, I appreciate them, and I'm honored and blessed that they called me and gave me an opportunity." After the Jets released Davante Adams and let him sign with the Rams, the Jets are hoping they have a receiver step up to form a duo alongside Garrett Wilson, and some will be looking towards Arian to do that. While they have some veterans including Allen Lazard, Josh Reynolds, and Tyler Johnson, some are already saying that Arian Smith has been impressing at OTAs. A Jets analyst said, quote, "It's clear though the Jets may have something special in this Georgia product. He's consistently gotten open during practices and has looked far better catching the football than he did in college. Some believe he has the potential to evolve into an electric pass catcher and could be the second string guy behind Garrett Wilson and also help out a stacked backfield that includes Breece Hall and Braylon Allen. For now, we'll just have to wait and see, but Arian Smith is definitely one of the more controversial players in this draft class, as he has the speed to be like Tyreek Hill, but also at times his hands are made of cement. We will see which version of him shows up in the NFL, but for now, what do you guys think? If you're a Georgia or a Jets fan, what do you think of Arian Smith? How do you think he'll do in the NFL? And which rookie should I cover next? Be sure to let me know down below, leave a like if you to support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out one of the videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.